Welcome back to Combust Astrology. My name's Liv. We're going to be covering the Mars and Libra transit and pretty much looking at where astrology is right now. So as Mars sits in Libra this week, you're going to experience, specifically on the 7th, Saturn and Neptune opposing that Mars. If you're someone with cardinal placements already, it's been quite a time. But if you don't naturally have cardinal placements in your chart, then this won't be too much of a devastating feeling. You know, the nodes going through the cardinals was something to remember, but Mars being in Libra, it's seen as fallen. And one of the biggest reasons why, well, it's in detriment, but it's like Mars is the opposite of the feminine, which is Venus. And Venus doesn't want to be in Aries, right? So that's a literal, like, basic definition of it. But when I look at it, Mars is assertive, it is the phallus, it is the masculine, and it wants to simply go. Libra is not submissive, but it's diplomatic. And because of its desire to interact with what's around it, it's not just simply going to go. So what happens when you have the diplomatic sign and the very aggressive sign? You see that they kind of flip roles. And with Saturn opposing both the Mars, but then Mars itself having a square to Venus, and then Neptune also squaring the Mars energy. This is like a whole cluster. And mentally, my direct translation is that patience is going to be taught during this period of time. And your definition of patience can differentiate from other people's. I look at patience as the ability to move to something else and ignore what's happening right in front of you here, right? You might look at patience and say it's the ability to actually sit in something and not be bothered by it. I think as Mars has a sextile to Mercury, and it will eventually square Venus, but as it also coincidentally creates a grand air trine, the desire here is to establish what you need without diving into the passive aggressive nature of Libra when it doesn't have what it needs. It feels like there's just too much going on. There's just too much, right? And that is one of the bigger things that this transit should walk you through. There's just too much. You just got to let it go. And if you can't do it, it's not your responsibility. Now, when you're looking through your rising, you really want to read this from the perspective of where Saturn is. I know that, the transit's Mars, but if you look at where Saturn is, that's where you'll see the head-on collision, right? Like the car wreck or whatever. I'm not good at drawing. So the head-on collision is where it is that's Aries and Saturn's going to be, because it's something that's requiring grit right now. Libra's trying to come in and add some balance, but that's not always the easiest thing. So in the area that Libra is where you can try to nurture. So that way Mars doesn't get triggered and then you actually have to deal with this opposition. Not to say you can ignore anything here, but it's a lot easier if you do it like that, because then it's not your burden to carry. It's not your cross and whatnot. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. Other than that, there is a full moon 2 days after. I guess this is just like a week video now, but I'll still say Mars and Libra. There's a full moon after. Nothing too crazy. The theme of this week has just been making sure you don't go senile by nurturing what gives you peace, right? Especially during a Mercury retrograde in Leo. So that's pretty much all I got. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.